It's our turn, episode number 89, our favorite games in the BGG Top 50. In this episode, I welcome AnnaMaria Jackson-Phelps to the show, and we talk about our favorite games in the BoardGameGeek.com Top 50 list and why those games made that list.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps us to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Cathy Ford. Today, I am happy to welcome to the guest host chair, blogger and game reviewer, AnnaMaria Jackson-Phelps. AnnaMaria, welcome to Our Turn.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Please introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm AnnaMaria Jackson-Phelps. I've been playing games since the dawn of time, almost, and I've been writing about them seriously for about, 7 or 8 months now. Love it. Best job I've ever had, easily.
Oh, it's your job?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, wow. Now I'm jealous.
Yeah, getting to do what you love. That's the dream, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. So what's your favorite game of all time?
7 Wonders, actually. And I'm going to talk more about that later, so I'm super excited.
Oh, fantastic. That's a good one. I like that one too. All right, so we're going to start out like we usually do, talking about what we've played lately. So what have you gotten to the table?
Heaven and Ale, actually, which I've really enjoyed a lot. I
haven't heard of that one.
It's neat. If you think viticulture but beer making, you're getting close to the right track.
Oh, nice.
So the whole game supposes that you're like a Belgian monk and you're trying to brew fantastic beer and manage your wheat and your hops and all those sorts of things as the game goes along. And I really, really like it. We play a lot of games since I review them, and getting something to the table purely for pleasure is fantastic for starters. But now, there's some games where you play and then you keep introducing them to people over and over again, and that's kind of become Heaven and Ale for us right now. So,
oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, I haven't heard of that one, but it sounds fascinating. I love viticulture.
Viticulture is a great game too. That's actually how someone put it on the table. They were like, if you like wine making, you'll love beer making.
Fantastic. All right. Well, the game that I have played most recently is actually, we're going to be talking about games on the top 50 list for Board Game Geek here in just a little bit. And this game is number 38, and it's Azul. And have you tried Azul yet?
Oh, I love Azul. That is so much fun.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it, and nobody I know owns it. So I hadn't had a chance to play it. We finally broke down and bought a copy, just based on what we've heard about it. And I really enjoyed it. I was also very impressed with the component quality. It's got great player boards. It's got great tiles. Everything about it is just very well made. In Azul, you're collecting tiles from a factory, and then you're trying to place these tiles on the board. And the game ends when one person gets a set of 5 tiles across, completes a row. And then you're scoring as you're placing tiles, and then there's also end of game scoring. And as I recall, I didn't do so hot in the first game I played of it, but I absolutely would love to play it again, and can't wait to get it to the table. I do think that this is a fantastic game to introduce to people who aren't gamers. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's enough strategy to be deep enough for a gamer, but it's got a light feeling, if that makes sense. It's collecting these tiles, laying them out in patterns doesn't come across as difficult at all. So yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, this would be one that I think I would probably introduce to my grandma. People have heard me talk about my grandma on the show before. She's 98 years old. She still lives on her own. just renewed her driver's license for 5 years.
Wow.
And she tells me, she's not a gamer. She is totally a gamer. She has been playing games like Pinochle and Bridge and Canasta her whole life. And when I take games down to play with her, when I go for a visit, she's like, "Oh, I'm too old to learn this. Oh, Grandma, this is a simple game. You'll pick it up just fine." Then she beats me. So I absolutely think this is another game that she could quickly beat me at. But that's okay. I just love spending time with her, and I love introducing her to these new games. I think this would be a great one.
Yeah, no, that's great. I feel like that's an untapped category that we really need to start delving into, is the not so much intro games, but intro to people who play different games, because things like you mentioned, canasta, cribbage, all have elements and mechanics in games that we're producing now. So it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to go, okay, do you remember when you do this in Bridge? Okay, it's just like that.
Right. Absolutely. And I do try to relate it to games that I know she's played when I introduce new games to her. But she has picked up things from, Suro to Flux. And I love telling the story on her. When I introduced her to Flux, I also introduced it to my then 16-year-old niece, who's now 21. And she kept winning and then going, "This is such a stupid game." And then I go, "You want to play again?" She goes, "Sure." And then she'd win again. And she'd go, "This is such a stupid game." And I'm like, "Yes, but are you having fun?" "Well, yeah." Well, there you go. That's all that matters. So, yeah, I love my grandma. She's great. All right. So, yeah, that's what we've been playing. I forgot to ask you, what OTP rating would you give Heaven and Nail?
4. Definitely something I would bring to the table again. Not sure if it's fresh enough that I would go out and purchase it and, give it as gifts to every single person that I know. But it's lots of fun. So definitely a 4.
Okay. And I would give Azul a 4 as well. I've only played it once. This is one of those games that I think that if I were to play it more and get into it a little more, explore it a little more, it would probably go up to a 5. But right now, it's a good, solid game, and it's a 4. So
awesome.
All right. So that's what we've been playing.
We have set up and been referring to and rating games by our own rating scale. Here's how we are using this scale. 5. Buy this now. 4. A good, solid game. 3. Decent, with some bugs. 2. Has great potential as kindling. And 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it.
Today for the Hot Topic, we are taking a look at the BoardGameGeek.com Top 50 Games. We are recording this on August 25th, 2018, so if you're listening to this much later, this list will have changed. Naturally, we can't mention all of the games on the list. That would make this episode way too long, and as longtime listeners of the show know, this already is a long enough podcast. So we're going to talk about our favorites and some honorable mentions. And AnnaMaria,
yes,
you picked a good one, and it happens to be number 1 for your first game. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about it?
I have. If there's an elephant in the room, it's the elephant-sized Gloomhaven box. I love this game for a lot of reasons, and I think similarly, it's on the list for a number of reasons. It's a role-playing game in a box in a lot of ways for a long time. Exactly. For people who've been playing things like D&D and other role-playing games for years and years, we know that one of the drawbacks of role-playing is just the amount of time that setup takes, that trying to get the group together takes, that things outside that game take. And Gloomhaven,
that the DM has to put into it.
Exactly, right?
Creating
hours, right? And every player's got to go and update their sheet and do all this additional work. And Gloomhaven takes that out of the equation. You pull open the box, you pull off the lid, you set a few things up, and you're in the middle of that dungeon delve. And that's brilliant. it simplifies things, not just for older players who maybe have more responsibility and don't have the ability to game for hours anymore, but for introducing younger players as well. I think it's terrific. Maybe a child of 7, 8, or 9 who doesn't have the attention span for, okay, well, now we're going to build this character sheet for the next 2 hours. That's going to be so much fun, But you can convince them that, hey, here is your character, and here's this board, and now we are in this wood, and we are going to walk through it, and a monster popped out, and just go from there. So I think both for old school, long time role playing gamers and new people that you're bringing kind of into the fold, I think it's terrific.
One of the things that this game introduced that I thought was really clever is that when you get your character up to a certain level, he or she retires. They go off to, the Gloomhaven version of Sun City, Arizona, and sit by the pool. And, they take their little fortune and off they go. I think that's brilliant.
It is, having a character that isn't in the adventuring game from 20 to 70 or 80 or that sort of thing makes more sense from a narrative standpoint, as well as for interest in the game. Things don't get stale because eventually you are a new character, or there's a new character in your party, or that sort of thing. So,
and also too, you don't wind up with a character that's so overpowered that, dragons are and a minor annoyance. So you're having to reintroduce new characters throughout the gameplay, and this is set up to go for how many scenarios?
Oh gosh, I right now we're only mid our 20th or so, and I know there's easily that many more. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of scenarios in this game, and bridge points. The story isn't completely linear, so you can make decisions about where you're going to go next, which is great.
So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure board game.
In a way, yeah, absolutely.
To some extent.
And you've got this whole legacy aspect, but you still have the ability for, if you've got a house guest or someone who's never showed up before, you can say, no, hey, sit down, play with us. Here's a character. It's already made up, ready to go. Let's give you a little overview about the party, and you're in, and you can play, and
that character doesn't need to be there for the next episode.
Exactly. Which is another whole issue that role-playing games sometimes suffer from, is if you can't get the whole party together, then you might as well just not go and play. So, yeah.
And I've noticed that that's an issue that some legacy games have as well. We started playing Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and we got to May, and one of our players dropped out. Mm-hmm. And so now we're sitting there going, how do we handle this? Because we were doing okay with I think everybody has 2 characters, if I remember right. Or maybe it's just 1. It's been a while since we played. But now we've got this hole, and we'd like to bring in someone else, but we don't want to have to start all over again. You know?
They've kind of missed things at that point that they would probably need to know. So, that would be a little awkward.
Yeah, so Gloomhaven doesn't suffer from that.
No, it doesn't. And I think something else that's totally cool about this game is, like, it has this great economic value as well. You buy this board game and you're going to get 40, 50 game sessions out of it. And I can't think of too many other games. It's got a high price point initially, but if you take something like, say, Terraforming Mars, which I think is at about like 60, 65 right now, the odds that you're going to take TM off the shelf 50 times in the next year or two, probably not super high, and
unless you're in the Ford household.
That's fair. But I can't think of a ton of other games that get that kind of replayability. And once again, that so many things are included in that enormous box that you don't, there's not a ton of add-ons you have to add or anything like that. So for me and for my household in particular, I love to be able to kind of look at, if I were trying to get this quality of entertainment someplace else, what would I pay versus what I just paid for this board game that I'm now going to play 50 times. So, and I think that's amazing.
if you don't mind, a dinged box, you can get it for even less than the normal retail value. We picked up a pretty good dinged, pretty badly dinged box, but all the components are fine.
Yeah.
The board is fine. And we paid $100 for it.
Nice. That's really nice.
We picked it up at a convention, and the vendor there, Aldo, hi Aldo, he had about 8 or 9 dinged copies of Gloomhaven.
Wow.
We waited till the end of the convention. We bought some other stuff from him through the course of the convention, but then we waited till the end of the convention, and he had one copy that was just the whole box was just thrashed, and he was offering that for $100. And I was like, that box is just too dinged up. I'd be worried it would fall apart and wouldn't contain the game. I said, but I'd be willing to buy that one if you were able to give me the same price. And he's like, yeah, because you bought other stuff from me. Absolutely, it's yours.
Nice.
I'm like, all right. So yeah, I was happy to come home with a copy of Gloomhaven. The con that we went to was in Reno, Nevada, which is a gambling town, casino town. And we had arrived the day early. And so we went to the Peppermill to play, and Mark walked out of the Peppermill poker room up $400. So it didn't put a ding in our budget.
That's a benefit as well.
There you go. And so that was kind of fun. But yeah, Gloomhaven's great. And it is number 1, and it shot up there too. So,
It did.
Didn't it displace Pandemic Legacy Season 1?
It did, which also, though, to me, shot up there super quickly. So
it did.
Yeah.
It did.
How the list has changed just over the last 4 or 5 years has been really interesting to see.
And if I recall correctly, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 displaced Twilight Struggle, which had been on there as number 1 for years.
As long as I can remember. Yeah, since the dawn of time. So that had been the number 1 for a long, long time. The list had been very static, it seemed like, for a long, long time. In the last 4 or 5 years, there's been tons of movement.
Yeah, there has. Now, the first game that I want to talk about, we've already mentioned, it's number 4 on the list, and that's Terraforming Mars. This one has not shot to number 1. But it did make it onto the top 50 really quick, and it's holding at number 4 right now. And like I said, this has become our go-to game when we want to play a game, but we're in the I don't know, what do you want to play? I don't know, what do you want to play? And we don't necessarily want to learn something new. So this is the game that we all know how to play in my little game group because we've played it so many times. And, if we're in the, I don't know, what do you want to play stage, we're like, okay, let's just cut that right now and just pull out Terraforming Mars. It's either that or Battlestar Galactica are 2. Battlestar is not on the top 50 list, I noticed, but that's fine. This is easily one of our favorite go-to games because it's easy to pull out and set up, especially since I got the Broken Token Organizer for the box.
Yay.
That's even easier. And we sit down, we play it, and nobody has to go through the rules or anything. And it's a fun way to spend 2 or 3 hours.
Do you have the overlays for the player mats?
No, the Broken Token Organizer comes with wooden player mats.
See, that is my one. We just, on Board Game Quest, just recently did a quick hits on that game. That's where everyone in the group kind of gives their opinion. And that's my only problem with Terraforming Mars. I love the game otherwise. Great economic engine, so much fun. But if you've just got those sad, sorry little flat player mats, you will spend most of the game just shuffling around your stuff because you'll lose where you were and how much you were earning. It's just so frustrating.
I've seen one that is that's an overlay, and I've seen one where it encases the player mat in plastic.
Neat.
And you snap the 2 pieces together, and it has the art from the player mat showing through, but all the little holes and everything line up. And I was considering getting those until Broken Token came out with their whole box organizer, and its way of organizing the different colored cubes is to put them on the player mat. And it comes with these wooden player mats that have, the laser cut symbols for everything. It's very clear where everything goes. Where you're moving energy to heat, there's a little opening between the two areas, so you just slide your stuff over, and it works great.
That's fantastic. I'm actually looking it up on my phone right now. Like, what? That's so great.
Well worth the money. Well worth the money. I absolutely adore it. If there's 2 copies of Terraforming Mars at a game party, and one is just, straight out of the box, and one is mine that has the organizers, everybody pulls out mine.
Oh, I bet.
Just because it just makes playing the game so much easier. The other thing that I've done besides sleeve my cards is I've bought a deck holder that I also bring when I bring Terraforming Mars and Battlestar Galactica and some of the other games that have big decks of cards. Mm-hmm. And I put that in my game bag for holding the decks, and that's the only other adjustment I've had to make.
So what is the deck holder?
You can find them on Amazon. They're meant for holding decks of cards, and then there's 2. In my case, there's 3. There's 3 sections for cards, and we use 2 of them for draw piles and 1 for a discard pile.
Oh.
And it actually spins, but that's not necessary. So yeah, it's just a neat little tool to kind of keep the cards in a nice, neat pile. If we need to pass it around the table, because we've got several players, we can do that, and the decks don't move.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're not falling over or sliding around or whatever. So That is Terraforming Mars.
My next one is number 46, Codenames. This one came out a couple of years ago. It's called The Word Game for People Who Aren't Good at Word Games, and The Deduction Game for People Who Aren't Good at Deduction Games. And I would entirely agree with that. This is our go-to party game at this point. This one's from Czech Games Edition, and I love this game. I don't usually like party games, honestly. I love strategy. I love deeper things, heavy Euros. Those are my games.
Yeah, it's not my favorite genre of games either, although I don't mind playing it when everybody else wants to play it.
That's kind of the way I feel about it too. They're good icebreakers, but I think this one kind of goes above and beyond in particular because people can drop in and drop out. You don't have to sit down to play this game. We usually have it set up on game night, and as people cycle in the door, because you spend the first 30 minutes of game night waiting for everyone to actually show up and start.
Right.
So we can have this set up, and as people are coming in, we just all get into this game. You join whatever side of the table is unbalanced at the time and just go for it. And I think that's terrific. I think that kind of design is so smart. And it's super accessible. Because it's not the deduction game for people who are good at deductions. There's no power player and then all the other people who are trying to kind of figure it out along with that person. There's different reasons why people choose different words. So have you played Codenames real brief? Like one person is giving clues and then everyone else on their team is trying to guess the words that are flipped up on the table that might go along with the one word clue that person's given. But people give clues for different reasons. So I may say giraffe, meaning zoo animals, but someone starts to think Africa. So they start to pull out everything that they think is African. And it ends up being super funny too, as you watch people make these almost like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon sort of associations where, if I go giraffe, I can go Africa, and Africa is next to Europe. And I once went to Italy for the summer where I ate pasta. So obviously giraffe means pasta. So it's really great.
That's funny.
Yeah, no. So I love it for that. There's a lot of different variants at this point as well. So
there is.
Yeah. We still play with the base game, old school for a game that's only been out for like 2 years. Right. But now there's like a Disney variant and a 2-player variant, which plays amazingly well for a game that usually, 8, 9, 10 people are playing.
There's also a picture variant.
I just saw that. Have you played that one?
No, I haven't. There's also, of course, there has to be a not safe for work variant.
Oh, I mean, it is what it is. If that's what you're into, then go for it, right?
I kind of roll my eyes because it seems like every time there's a game that comes out, it's like, oh, and here's the not safe for work part.
That has been super popular lately. Yeah, you're right. That's the kind of the party game thing for people who want to say naughty words, I guess. So.
Right.
Which is fine. I'll just work them into regular games. So. Yeah, so that was probably the biggest reason I chose that. It's just the accessibility of a game. It's another game for people who don't play games.
Exactly.
We will regularly have people over for game night who are maybe a spouse or just another friend who happens to be in the area. Since we have a lot of people who travel through where I live, and they still feel like they get to participate and do something with us, and they didn't have to sit and listen to a 30-minute explanation of why they're moving this one cube along this track for the next hour. So I think they really appreciate that as well.
Right. Yeah, we had this game, and I think we just weren't overly impressed with it because we don't like party games as a rule. And when I say we, I'm talking about me and Mark, my husband. I think part of the problem I had with it is being the one that was introducing it to the group. Mm-hmm. I always ended up as the clue giver, and I'm not real good at doing that. So I think that was one of the things that I had a problem with it. But I know it is just, taken off again like a shot. It's not one of those games that got to number one, but it is on this top 50 list, and it has done very well. It's got lots of sequels or other versions of it. And I know the people who love it, like you, love it.
Absolutely. I think
that's great.
Economically, it's super accessible as well. I think it's on Amazon for like $15 or $20. So
you can also pick it up at Target.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I love to see more games accessible to just general people who maybe wouldn't wander into a game store. And I think that adds to why this one's become so popular. Because people mm-hmm. who don't frequent, your friendly local game store do go to Target. So
right. And this one is number 46 on the list right now.
It is, yes.
All right. Well, going back up the list just a little bit, we're going to go to number 26, which is Mechs versus Minions. And this is another legacy-style game, which there are quite a few on this list.
There are.
I know there's
a hot thing lately.
Yeah. There's Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and I'm sure Season 2 is on here, but I don't remember seeing it.
I think so.
And then there's Gloomhaven, and not in the top 50, but just outside the top 50 is Time Stories, which is another favorite of mine.
Brilliant.
But Mechs vs. Minions is described as a labor of love by a group of people that did a video game, and that was really popular, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the video game. I'm sure it'll come to me in a little bit. When you look at this game, it is just so intriguing. I mean, I saw this being played at a convention, and it's a programming game. You're programming your mechs to move around the board and defeat the minions. One of the games that got me into the hobby was Robo Rally. Have you ever played Robo Rally?
I love Robo Rally. I've spent so much time falling into pits in Robo Rally, it's not even funny.
Oh, I love it. And to me, it's so funny when people get their right and left mixed up with the robot's right and left, and you don't end up where you thought you were going to be. But so many people get so angry and frustrated at that. So that aspect of this game kind of surprised me that it's as high on the list as it is, because people don't tend to like the programming where you could end up somewhere you didn't intend to end up. But this is a cooperative as opposed to a competitive programming game. So the other players can help you figure it out if they need to. And I think maybe that's one reason why it's as high on the list as it is. Also, too, the component quality is outstanding. Have you played Mechs versus Minions at all, AnnaMaria?
I haven't. And when you said it was associated video game, I just went and looked. Is it League of Legends that it's
That's
associated?
it, League of Legends.
Oh my gosh,
Thank you.
I play the heck out of MOBAs. So yeah, that one's going on my list for today too. So I'm going to buy so much.
It is another one that is really expensive. They did it as a Kickstarter. I did not get it as a Kickstarter. I went and I saw it at a convention, and I watched them play it, and it was just so engaging to watch, much less play. And then my friend Price, hi Price, he said, "Oh, Cathy, I got to show you this box." And he opened up the box, and longtime listeners of the show know that one of my pet peeves is when a box for a game is designed for shipping the game to the player, but not storing the game after it's punched.
Fantasy Flight, we're talking to you. They're the worst.
And Stronghold Games, I'm also talking to you. But Mechs versus Minions took this into account. There are 100 minion pieces, and there are 4 different poses for these 100 different pieces. So there's 25 of each pose. They designed the inserts for the game to hold the minions no matter what pose they're in.
Oh my gosh.
And there are 100 little slots for these minions. So you don't have to go, okay, these 25 go in this tray and these 25 go in this tray. I mean, you throw them in, they settle, and they stay put. And then there are plastic covers that go over each of the trays to hold them in. The player pieces are painted. They come painted in beautiful, brilliant color. And they have their own little tray where each one goes, and it's got a plastic cover over it. And then there's a box inside that says, "Do not open." And you don't open, and the instructions say, don't open this box until you're instructed to do so. But this box is what convinced my husband to get the game. It's got an axe protruding out of it, like something's trying to break out of the box.
That is so fantastic.
And I showed that to my husband. He goes, "Oh, that alone, we're buying this game."
Yes.
And so we bought it, and we played it with my niece and her boyfriend. And hi, Nicole and Kyrie. And it was just so much fun. And we made it through about 3 or 4 scenarios. We got to open the box and see what was inside, and we lost against what was inside. And then they had to go, and we haven't pulled it out because we were waiting for them to come back. But they live up in Humboldt, which is at the extreme northern end of California. They go to school up there. So we're just waiting for them to come back so we can play, or we're going to start over again with somebody else. But it is just so much fun.
Doesn't it say a lot about a game when you can say, "I lost and I love it and I'm totally going to play it some more"?
Well, AnnaMaria, that's me for most games. I lost. I had a great time, but I lost. Yeah, that's me for most games.
Oh.
But yeah, no, Mechs versus Minions. The only reason I am at all surprised that it's on this list is that it's a programming game. But it's, like I said, it's a cooperative programming game, which is probably why it's in the top 50. And it's sitting at number 26, so it's just outside the top 25 even. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I highly recommend it. I give it a 5, and yeah, that's going to be in our game collection for a good long time.
I think it's about to be in mine. I just added it to my Amazon cart, so I'm telling you. Let's see. My next game is my absolute favorite game that I mentioned earlier. So on number 43 is Seven Wonders. Antoine Bauza, who's I think I've bought everything that he's designed up to this point.
Have you really?
I have, and it's funny because I don't usually look for a designer. It just kind of happened that it was that way. I would keep picking out these games and keep really enjoying them. And I think I was about 3 or 4 games in where I was like, wow, it's always this guy. But this one,
that's great,
is my number one. Yeah, absolutely. If you find a designer that you like their games, that's like finding an author that you like their books. Something speaks to you, something about the story, the mechanics or whatever speak to you. And I think that's huge. So, Oh, Seven Wonders, though. I could talk about that for a while. For a game, 2010. Yeah, so 8 years now, still holding up, still producing. They've got another expansion coming in a
Yes,
couple
I
of
heard about
months.
that.
Oh, I got to play it at Origins in a very, very rough state. And I will go on record right now as saying it's my favorite expansion for the game.
Oh, really?
It adds a lot. So the expansion is called Armada, and for people who played Seven Wonders before, you know that usually you only affect the people who are your neighbors. Just like I mean, you're building the civilization, so it's the people who border you that you're really having the biggest effect on. So Armada supposes that you have ships and the ability to get a little further, so you can start affecting people who are across the table from you or two
Oh,
neighbors over.
nice.
Oh, it's brilliant. So there's never, if there's one teeny thing, I gave this game a 5. I'll always give it a 5. But there's the one thing that it maybe suffers from is you can watch someone across the table with a brilliant strategy and you can't do anything about it, and you don't want to go, hey, you guys really need to dogpile on that guy because he's gonna get it, right?
Uh-huh.
Now with Armada, you can take care of that without having to feel like you're starting to direct people to, to that person over there.
Nice.
Yeah, it also, similar to like the Leaders expansion, it kind of informs your strategy a little bit. You start to see, oh, I'm building up a lot of science, or the person next to me is building up a lot of military. That's the direction I'm going to go into. What I like about Seven Wonders in particular, and why I've liked it pretty much since the first time I played it, is there are a lot of ways to win this game. You can go super heavy science. You can completely ignore science and go all military. You can build an amazing economic engine and just amass piles of money, build your great works. I mean, all of the typical ways you can think that you would build a civilization are there, but the ways in which you can put your civilization together to earn those victory points and win at the end could be different every single game if you wanted it to be that way. And I love games that don't have to be the same every time. Gameplay gets boring if you recognize that something only has 3 strategies. And then,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't think
And
Seven Wonders suffers from that.
have you seen the Seven Wonders app on the phone?
I have not, actually.
Oh, it is amazing.
What's it do?
You're playing against the AI.
What?
And yeah, they don't have a way yet to play against other people, but you're playing Seven Wonders and you know who your neighbors are, and you can set it to play a 3-player game, you can set it to play a 7 or 8-player game. I usually just do a full table, and it does all of the calculating for you. So when it comes to scoring, it does all that for you. But it deals out the cards to you, and it takes like 10 minutes to play a full game.
That's fantastic. I know that they've had a flyer in the games for years that there was an app coming. I'm happy to hear it's out.
Yeah, I know it's out for Android for sure. I don't know about iOS, so yeah. But it's an amazing game. You do have to pay for it, and you do have to pay for the expansions. It comes with the base game, and then Cities and Leaders expansions you can buy to add in. I just always play with Cities and Leaders, same as we do on the table. We always play with Cities and Leaders.
Yeah.
And those are the only expansions it comes with right now. Both on the table and in the app, I have won by playing lots and lots of black cards, city cards. I've won by playing lots and lots of blue cards, which are the works and the wonders, or not the wonders, the great works, like like the aqueducts and the baths and the temples and all those kinds of things that you find in civilizations. And it just depends on what leaders you get. It depends on what cards you get. It depends on how many resources you get to be able to apply to things. I played a game on the table this last weekend of Seven Wonders, and I drew Stonehenge as my wonder, which I was not real happy with. And then I could not get any stone.
Oh.
I saw no, because part of the wonder for Stonehenge is that when you build stage 1, you get, I think, points and money for how much stone you have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't end up building that because I never got any stone.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting that the main, I guess, it's called Seven Wonders, so you would think constructing your wonder has got to be something that your game mechanic would hinge on, but it doesn't have to. If you, like you said, if you wind up with a board that doesn't fit your play style, or you just can't get the resources, you can still find a pretty good workaround to collect something different and do something a little bit outside that box. And still, even if you don't win, you're going to come close. So,
well, in this particular game, I came in dead last.
Oh,
but I did my best to take out I built up a really tough military. But it was so funny because everyone around the table had played except for this one guy, and he won. And he was sitting next to me, and I kept smacking him down with my military. And he still won. And I was like, what?
No, that's terrific, though. It makes it accessible. I feel like if new people come into the game and they just get crushed, it's not a fun experience to lose, Nobody wants to do that. It happened that when I played at Origins, there was a gent at the table who had not played. He was with two friends who had played and really enjoyed the game, so he sat down with us anyhow. And he wound up in second place above his two friends who had been playing and just loved this game and couldn't wait to play it. So it's just kind of like, it speaks to how good the game is that he sat down not knowing the game and had picked it up fast enough to do really well by the end of it. So great balance, really good balance.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's Seven Wonders. And I think that one will be on this list for a good long, long time.
Absolutely.
All right. Before I go into my last game that I'm going to talk about, I want to go over the honorable mentions here real quick. And, this is a top 50 list that we had to choose from. And there was no way we were going to be able to talk about all of the games that we love on this list because there are just too many, even though I think it's safe to say we haven't played all of the games between the two of us.
No, I hadn't. I was actually, speaking to what I'd said earlier about how much it's changed over the last, even 3 or 4 years. I think if I looked at the 2016 list, I was only lacking 8 games. But I looked at this list and there were almost 25 games I hadn't played on this list. So it was, that's crazy. Lots of movement. Lots of good things.
So I'm going to just go down this list. Let me know if you've played this and if you like it, don't like it. Okay. This list is in no particular order, and I forgot to put in what place they are on the list. But Tzolk'in is another good one. Have you played Tzolk'in?
I played it. I love the way it looks. That was a later in the evening after a few drinks game, so I don't remember a lot about the gameplay, but I do remember that I loved how it looked, and I think I did really well.
It's a worker placement game with a twist. Literally, you're moving gears that move your workers. That was just absolutely innovative. Scythe is on this list. No big surprise there.
Yeah.
Great Western Trail is on this list.
I love that game. Game.
It's another worker placement game. But it's a little different.
It is. And we hum Rawhide while we're setting it up too. So just to get into it.
An oldie but a goodie is on the top 50. Puerto Rico.
Very, very OG Puerto Rico. That's probably one of those that was one of my earliest introduction to the Euro, as the board game renaissance was kind of kicking off.
Same here.
Yeah. I had that one for a while. I think it's just recently gotten replaced with a few that are higher on the list now, but no, loved it for years.
This is one of my husband's favorite games of all time, so this will be in our collection forever. Along with the next one, which is his absolute favorite game of all time, which is Power Grid.
Like Power Grid as well. Yeah.
He loves it. Food Chain Magnate was one you added to this list. It is not one I would have necessarily added to this list because my experience playing it wasn't that great.
Oh.
I mean, I had a good time. I was playing with Mark and with my friend Richard Bright. Hi, Richard. And Richard is a fantastic game teacher, but in this particular instance, it's a tough game to learn. When we were done, Richard was in the lead by like 500 points.
Holy cow.
There was no way we were going to catch him.
That's crazy. We just happened to get that. We were my friendly local game store, Labyrinth Puzzles and Games here in DC, does a yearly charity auction, and we happened to score this. My husband Ben had been wanting this one for a long time, so we spread it out across the entire table and just kind of went at it. And I do agree that I feel like you have to play this one to learn it, because just sitting down with the rules is not going to, it's not going to make sense until you kind of see it in motion. But man, once we got it in motion, we were throwing back and forth with the hamburgers and the pizza. It was great. It was so great. I really enjoy it a lot.
Mark just absolutely did not enjoy this game at all. I would like to try it again. So obviously I need to do it at a time when Mark is not there to play, because he will veto this game right off the bat. But I would like to give it another try. We had a hard time with it, but once we started getting things going, it started making more sense. But by that point, Richard was already so far out in the lead that there was no way we were ever going to catch him. Yeah. And so when you kind of get smashed like that, it also tends to color your perception of the game.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think you're right. This is a game you kind of have to play to learn, and then I think you need to play it again quickly.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And we haven't, because like I said, Mark just did not enjoy it at all. There are a lot of people. It's another one of those games where the people who like it really, really like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Pandemic Legacy is on this list. Like I said, I think both of them are.
They are. Yeah. I scrolled through. I saw 2 on there as well.
Okay.
I just got to finish season 1, and our season 2 will start as soon as everyone's settled back in for the fall. And wow, I'd gotten kind of tired of regular Pandemic, and it was up until now the only co-op game that I enjoyed to begin with. So yeah, I'm not a huge co-op game player. So getting into the Legacy, I was like, oh man, I'm already a little tired of Pandemic, and I don't love working together with everybody else on the game. And I was hooked in January. Like, we went through this thing, and it was just so neat and unique. It's that game that kind of kicked off this whole idea of legacy games to begin with. And by the time we're like tearing open boxes to find things for the next month, and the little twists start coming up and everything. I mean, it's like watching Game of Thrones, only it's a board game, right? There's a twist, there's a hook, there's a oh no, we've been betrayed. There's all sorts of things like that in there. And yeah, I really, really dug Legacy, and I cannot wait to open season 2.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one is Viticulture, a beautiful game and well done. Another worker placement game. Also on the list is Concordia, which is kind of, I think, little bit of an older game.
I have still not had a chance to play Concordia. I have not got my hands on that one yet. I'm looking forward to it.
That is another game that you need to play it, and then you need to play it again quickly. Not like the same night, but, within a week or two. And for me, towards the end of the second game, it all snapped into place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And isn't that a great feeling, too? Because you're like, I get it.
Mm-hmm. It's a worker placement, kind of a deck builder, which deck builders have not been my favorite genre of game. So I was a little bit, I don't get it. But once it all snapped into place, I mean, the light bulbs just started going off over my head. And the third game I played, I won.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a game that if you didn't have a good luck with it the first time, you need to play it again real quickly so that you're sure you get the concepts. And then it's another game that anytime anybody wants to pull it out, I will sit down and play it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just really enjoy it. And then I also had on the list Twilight Imperium 3rd and 4th editions are both on this list.
Wow.
Which, considering the amount of time you have to invest into playing a game of Twilight Imperium, 3rd edition, I will qualify that, 3rd edition, it surprises me that it's on the list in the top 50, but 4th edition is higher up on the list than 3rd edition is. 3rd edition is right at 50. 4th edition is higher up. And I recently got a chance to play 4th edition, and it took us 4.5 hours.
Holy cow.
Which they had allotted 12 hours for this game at the convention. It was supposed to go from noon to midnight. And I was like, all right, I'm down. I'm here. Let's go. I was the only person that hadn't played 4th edition that sat down at the table. I was the only woman at the table. And everybody was completely kind and understanding. I said, I've played 3rd edition once, and I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing 4th edition, but you're going to have to remind me what the rules are. And they absolutely went through and explained things pretty quickly. They explained how things were different. It's more streamlined. Turns go much faster in 4th edition. And we had four players, and they said the 4th edition, it's about an hour a player. And because I was a newbie, it was about 4.5 hours before we had a winner. Yeah.
Do you think maybe part of the reason for its big rise on the list is you're talking about, a really good game that kind of does what Gloomhaven is doing for RPGs, is taking that game and kind of reducing it, crystallizing it. It's not taking out any of the good parts that people are enjoying, but it's taking out a lot of that minutia so you can get a game in less than, 4 days.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's a really good strategy, diplomacy, space-based game. And yes, you're going to have confrontations with people, and you're going to try and work with people, and there's backstabbing and the whole 9 yards. But the mechanics of the game in 4th edition have just been so much more streamlined. It doesn't take an hour and a half to do a round.
Wow.
Like it does with 3rd edition. I mean, it takes 20 minutes to do a round.
That's fantastic.
And then you're moving on. So it has cut down the time dramatically. So anyway, that's our list of honorable mentions. Now I want to get to my last game that I'm going to bring up. And you couldn't talk about the top 50 list on Board Game Geek without talking about Twilight Struggle. And I don't think Katie from Katie's Game Corner would forgive me if I left it off the list anyway. Hi, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
So Twilight Struggle is a 2-player game, which it surprises me that it was number 1 on the list for as long as it was, being a 2-player only game.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's based on the Cold War from like 1946 or 47 to 1989, when the Soviet Union fell and kind of fell apart. This was completely a nostalgic game for Mark and I, because we grew up during these events. Because of our age difference, Mark is 12 years older than I am. He remembers a lot of the earlier stuff much more clearly. And I learned a lot of it from history books. He actually lived through it. And I remember a lot of the later stuff a little more clearly because it was going on while I was in high school, and he was out adulting and doing his thing, but he wasn't really paying all that much attention because he was out doing young adult stuff. But, I was in high school and I had my parents going, you got to pay attention because this is a big deal. And so when we sat down to play this game, it was absolutely a lot of, oh, I remember when this happened. Oh, I remember hearing about that. Oh, I remember this and that and the other thing. And the game is completely engaging as well.
It is.
And it's a fairly easy game to learn. And you don't have to know what all of the events were. Not only that, but the events don't have to take place the way they did in real life. Wouldn't
that be a mess if you had to remember, okay, is it the Orion-Cotro affair first, or did that happen after the fall of the Berlin Wall? Oh my gosh.
Right. And who was it that kicked off the Bay of Pigs? Was it Cuba or was it Puerto Rico? it doesn't matter. The events are there, the players are there, they can happen however they happen. Now, some of the events are labeled as, okay, this is Soviet controlled and this is US controlled, but it doesn't have to happen the way it happened in real life. And this was also a game where the first time we played it, I beat Mark, which is unusual because I don't tend to win games, but I did. I won this one, and I won it pretty quickly, actually. There is an app out for it. I have not played the app.
The app is fantastic.
Is it? Okay.
It is so good.
Yeah, I've heard that. But I've only played the game once, and I want to play it a few times before I delve into getting addicted to the app. So
it is. The app takes a lot of the time for setup and things like that out. Additionally, since there are certain actions you can perform during your turn, but you can only do maybe once or that sort of thing, the app takes that, oh, hey, wait, I already did that, I can't do that again sort of thing. It gives you these prompts to say, oh, you've already done that. So great for reminders and stuff, and great for when you can't convince everyone else in the house that, someone needs to play Twilight Struggle with me right now.
Well, we borrowed our friend Richard's copy and we played it and loved it. Gave it back to him because it's one of his favorite games of all time. And recently I came across a copy at a convention and I snagged it. But it is still in shrink wrap because our lives have just been crazy lately and we haven't had time to pull it out. So, but yeah, Twilight Struggle. I'm sorry, you can't talk about a list of the top 50 board games and not mention Twilight Struggle, which is currently sitting at number 5.
Yeah.
So it has not fallen all that far.
No, absolutely not. Terrific game.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me for this discussion. This has been fun.
Well, thank you. This has been a ton of fun. I talk about games all day long, and now I have great suggestions of stuff to go out and buy this weekend. So,
oh, good. I'm glad I could be so helpful.
The Dice Tower Network is a proud supporter of the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund. The board gaming community is kind and generous, and this fund was created to provide financial assistance to members of the board gaming community in their time of need. If your game is turned upside down and you need assistance, please visit jackvassell.org/apply. Find out how we can help.
All right, so now we're getting to the part of the episode where we're winding things down and looking ahead to what's on our schedules as far as gaming or fun or just anything in general. So, AnnaMaria, what have you got on your plate in the next week or 2 or 3?
I am super stoked. This is a very busy time of year for me. And I actually managed to squeeze out about 5 days worth of holiday next week. And it's all about some me time. I'm not actually going anywhere in particular. I may go to the shore for the day. I may run into DC and just kind of wander around museums, whatever, but just to have a few days. I know, right? A little bit of, that hashtag me time going on. And I'm more excited than getting on a plane and going to Europe for 2 weeks. Just the idea of like all that free time with nothing really pressing. I'm super excited about that. And then the weekend after next weekend is WashingCon here in DC. So local board game convention, a little bit of events, but mostly just tons and tons of open gaming. We went last year for the first time. Really enjoyed it. Reminded me a lot of Geekway as it was kind of starting up. About 1,000 people. The same kind of vibe. Just a lot of people really into games who just want to play as much stuff as they can with people and have a good time. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Nice. I have taken delivery of our BoardGameTables.com table.
So cool.
It was just delivered this last week. I tweeted about it and showed some pictures, but I'll put them in the show notes too. We just moved into a small apartment. And we ordered a game table we thought would fit really well. It does fit really well. We haven't actually got it set up yet, but this table is enormous.
Oh my gosh. How big is it?
I don't remember the exact measurements, but the package that was delivered to our front door, and my husband goes, okay, bring it in, put it in the living room. And he's like, no, I'm not bringing it into your house. It was 330 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
This was not delivered by UPS or FedEx.
Right.
They needed a pallet jack to get it from the truck to our front door, and they left it outside the front door. Now, my husband, Mark, is mobility impaired. He does not lift heavy things. In fact, when we moved, I sent him to work and hired a couple of movers to come in and load the truck and unload the truck for me, because he's not physically able to lift things. And, we just deal with it. But he's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to help you with this. And it came on a pallet, and it had cardboard surrounding the tabletop. And then it had wood sitting on top of the cardboard, like plywood.
Oh my gosh.
And then sitting on top of that was the biggest cardboard box I think I've ever seen outside of a refrigerator box. It's like literally about half the size of a refrigerator box. The pedestal was in there.
Oh my gosh.
Along with all of the hardware and the instructions and all of that. And then it was all strapped together with like 2 different types of straps. And I had to use a knife to cut the straps off. And then I brought in the box. The box wasn't heavy. It was just huge and awkward. So I managed to push that in. And then I'm like removing layer upon layer of stuff to get at the tabletop. And my neighbors were poking their head out the door going, what are you doing? I'm like, all this will go away. I promise. This will not be here. You're not going to trip over this getting out. It will be taken care of. And we ordered a hexagonal table.
Oh, neat.
As opposed to a rectangular one, because small apartment. We didn't want to try and fit a long rectangular table in. I ended up rolling the tabletop in on its edge.
Oh my gosh.
This thing
so
is
funny.
Heavy. And it's still wrapped in its plastic. It's still got its styrofoam around the edges, so it's protected and everything. But I'm going to have friends come over to help me lift it onto the pedestal.
Oh, I bet.
So shucky darn, we'll have to put this together, and then we'll naturally have to break it in and play some games. I haven't figured out what exactly we're going to play yet. We also got it with the table topper on it, so we can turn it into a dining table.
That's nice. That's a really nice touch.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering if it's going to lighten up when I remove the table topper and if I can get it on the table without the table, on the pedestal without the table topper in place. But yeah, it's heavy. I initially was leaning it against the box that was holding the pedestal. And then I'm like, what is in that box? Because you can't tell from the outside. And so I went and opened it up, and I pulled out the pedestal and set it on the floor and was looking inside and kind of checking things out. And the next morning we came out, and the box is just barely holding up the tabletop.
Oh my gosh.
Because I'd forgotten to move it when I removed the pedestal. So anyway, we've just had some adventures with it. And, moving is always such a headache anyway, but I really like this apartment we've moved into. We're getting our dogs used to it. We've got 2 dogs, and Sadie's adapting really well. She's only 4, so, new things are like, oh, cool. Shasta is having a little more trouble with it. She's 12.
Uh-huh.
We bought a doggy door so that they could go out on the patio while we're gone during the day, and she's just like befuddled by this contraption.
Oh.
If I push her out the door, she'll go out. And if she sees Sadie come back in through the door, she'll come in. But she just absolutely does not want to use it on her own.
Oh.
So, it's getting settled, getting things unboxed after spending so much time boxing things up. Now we're having to unbox them again. And but it's starting to feel like home. So that's a good thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but I'm really looking forward to getting this table. set up and broken in, and then I can concentrate on organizing my games a little bit. I've got them on their correct shelves. We've got our shelf of played games and our shelf of unplayed games. And so they're on the correct shelves. They're sorted that way. But in our last place, I had them alphabetized, and they're not alphabetized by any stretch of the imagination. So it's harder to find games right now. So
I appreciate, though, that there are other things in your house that you've, still have in boxes, but you made sure you got your games out, because that's, priorities, right?
Well, we have a Tuesday game group where, because Mark, I was telling you before we started recording, Mark has to be at work at 4:30 in the morning. So his bedtime is about, 7 o'clock, 7:30. But we have friends that get off work early or have the day off on Tuesday. And so we've set up this kind of afternoon game group, and we wanted to get that going again as quickly as possible. We've had to put it on hiatus since I started a new job, because my current schedule is 9 to 6, which gets me home in time to say, good night, honey, I love you. But once I'm out of training, my schedule will go to 5:30 to 2:30, and then we'll be able to resume the afternoon game group. So anyway,
Fun.
looking forward to getting that going again. Getting it going again. And with the new game tables. So, all right. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you online?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So the regular site is girlsplaygames.org. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can usually find me under Girls Play Games or AnnaMaria Jackson-Phelps. Let's see. I review primarily at this point on Board Game Quest, which is terrific. I love working with them. And I've just started writing with Kiki of the Girls Game Shelf. She just got the website up and running. And so there's a blog now associated with the gameplay videos.
Nice.
Which I've loved for ages. She was really kind of one of the intros to the idea of content creation and media and things associated to board games. So I am having a blast working with her. She's fantastic. And the series that I'm writing is called The Busy Girls Guide. And it's all about finding time to game and to go to conventions and to get your friends together, and just, the things that sometimes we kind of push off to the side because we're all super busy, and just kind of squeezing that extra little bit of fun out. So
nice. And now, are you on social media at all?
Yeah. So Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can find me under Girls Play Games. So I'm trying to think if I do anything else. No, those three. Honestly, I got into Twitter and I thought I wasn't going to use it at all, and I just in less than 6 months hit my 1,000th tweet or something. It was
nice.
Okay. I'm gonna talk more than I think I do. So
Twitter's another one of those things that the people who love it, and the people who are meh, they don't use it at all. It's just, it's like the games we talked about earlier. Some people love it. Some people don't. That's okay.
Absolutely. I think, and I think there's enough stuff for everybody. I think for people who like, longer messages with more content, maybe Facebook's better. Twitter is great for genuinely having conversations and connecting with people in that way, a little bit more short form. And I love Instagram too, because I like taking pictures of stuff. Primarily lately, it's been my dog with board games, so or some board game art. I've been doodling in my my spare time when I really should be doing something else, but I just end up doodling stuff. So
nice. All right. Well, and if you want to reach out to me online, I run the Our Turn Podcast Twitter account, which is at Our Turn Podcast. Sarah Reed runs our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/Our Turn Podcast. We do have an Instagram account. Sadly, we have not posted much to it lately, but it's at Our Turn Podcast as well there. And then we also have a guild on BoardGameGeek.com, which is guild number 2600. And I want to apologize to the guildies. I have not been on the guild very much lately, and that is going to change as soon as I get my desk set up. And, once my schedule has leveled out, which it's about to do, I plan to come home and spend my evenings posting in the guild and working on podcasts and all kinds of other things I've got plans for. So stay tuned for more stuff coming from Our Turn podcast. AnnaMaria, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. This has been fun.
Thank you. I loved it. This was fantastic.
Okay, so until next time, and on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast crew, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on August 25th, 2018, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and AnnaMaria Jackson-Phelps with assistance from Mark Ford. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Purple Planet Music. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 89. You can find a list of the games along with links to the listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast, Ludology, or the Dice Tower by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.